And we're live on the internet, I do believe. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and theys and thems. I am Chris Moriarty Marks, the commissioner of this fine Pokemon Draft League, dubbed the WW PDL, and I'm here for the week in review for Week 5 of Season 7. You may be asking, Chris, what happened to Week 4? It didn't exist. There was no Week 4. Everything is a lie. No, what actually happened was the recording and stream of the video didn't go very well, and it actually corrupted the save file for the video, and the VOD from the stream was pretty much unusable. So no week 4 in review, but we'll try to touch on a little bit of that stuff here in this one. But we're now here to talk about week 5, and as always, I'm joined by these we're going to call you this way. I think we're going to go with esteemed guests this week.
Better than last week.
That's fair, but why don't you two introduce yourselves, esteemed guests?
Hey guys, it's me, Ollie, Hipsterbrownkid, Sheikh from the Nashville Ninetales.
Caleb Gulley, the head coach of the West Texas Wingulls, also go by the Seagull, also an esteemed guest of this very show today.
Yes, I regret calling you something so nice already. And for those of you at home who don't understand our graphic this week, I would like to make sure that you do catch the arrow. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, Ali, why don't you talk to the people about why we don't have a free agency screen this week?
So, yeah, there were a whole bunch of free agency moves made in these last 2 weeks with people trying to finish up their rosters, and there were so many of them that it warrants its own video that we will be releasing later today, I believe, about the covering all the moves that are made and going over the locked rosters for all the teams.
This is factual. But with free agency out of the way, what we like to go to next is those previous predictions, and we've actually got week 4 and 5 predictions shown here to catch everybody up. Caleb, if you wouldn't mind taking us through those.
We've got quite a few of these predictions to go through, but we'll start with week 4. The Memphis Machamps and the Nashville Ninetales, a series I had a hard time pronouncing in our video last week. Memphis taking that series 2-1 is what my notes say, and guess what? I got that one right. Then the Jersey City Jirachis and the Chapel Luchas played, and Jersey City decided to prove everybody wrong once again, and we have to have the unanimous incorrect decision that has, for some reason, been a staple all season long. Jersey taking that game 2-0. And then the West Texas Wingulls and the Charlotte Charizards, all three of us picking up a series prediction there, with West Texas winning that series 2-1 in a very closely contested 3-game series. Taking us an overall look of how we're doing so far after week 4, Chris and I both at 9-5, Ollie at 6-8. Which made week 5 a little bit more interesting in some regards and not interesting in others. As we look at week 5, the predictions there, the West Texas Wingulls, Nashville Ninetales, Chris and I getting that one correct. And then Chapua Luchas and the Toronto Trick Roomers, we all got one correct. And then our weekly unanimously incorrect series, the Jersey City Jirachis and the Memphis Machamps. Not a whole lot changing there. Chris and I still tied at 11-6, and Ali at 7-10.
We finally got a Chapel Hill game right for once.
Yeah! All you gotta do is bet on Toronto, because they're undefeated. So you gotta do that, right, Caleb? Right?
Yeah. Never mind. Never mind that I've been
Toronto.
picking the Memphis.
Hey, no spoilers.
Hey,
no spoilers.
I already said I was on it.
Yeah.
Despite what's happened.
Anyways, so these games that we've just discussed actually played out this week. So how's about we take a look at those? Starting with the West Texas Wingulls versus the Nashville Ninetales. The two boneheads that are joining me today actually got to duke it out in the arena for once this season, and played out in quite a fashion. We can see here that the Texas Wingulls picked up the 2-0. Another one of those series where it's a 2-0 that sure didn't feel like one. Both games were pretty hotly contested. The second one involving a bit of possibly luck to pick up the win, but
We'll take it.
we'll take it. Game 1, the West Texas Wingulls actually failed to lock in their team on time, forcing them to send out the Garchomp and Charizard first. And due to some clever switching and a well-timed Dynamax, able to pick that game up, and then deciding for Game 2, hey, you know what? I kind of like that strategy, running back the same 4 Pokemon, able to get that G-Max Charizard big at the right time, and it picked up a pretty fortunate crit on a Wildfire into the Metagross, which basically sealed up the game for West Texas. Taking a look at some of the stats, we can see over here on the Nashville side that the Zapdos got the Dynamax in Game 1. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do much with it and fainted twice. The Umbreon participated in team previews. The Cantonian Dugtrio was used once, fainted once. The Metagross maxed once, not twice. Sorry for the misinformation on the graphic, but it did pick up 2 KOs and fainted in both games. The Galvantula with 1 use and 1 faint, and the little Charge Bug that could was used in both games, picking up 1 KO beside its 2 feints. Now taking a look over at the West Texas side of things, you can see that the MVP this week was in fact that newly acquired Garchomp with 1 Dynamax, 2 KOs, 1 faint. Not the most impressive scoreline on this sheet, but it exerted a lot of pressure and was one of the key manipulative pieces in the first game, therefore giving it the MVP, and that G-Max Charizard coming out with 1 max, 3 KOs, 1 faint. The Incineroar being thrown out in both games, picking up a KO in each and fainting never, and the Serena being used in both games, only fainting once. And boy, howdy, let me tell you, there were a Toxicroak and a Seeking.
Yeah. Spent a whole solid hour or so before the game breeding a very specific Toxicroak that didn't even get brought. That's how Draft League goes sometimes, I guess. And just reason to prepare before you play. But this next series, the Chapo Haluches and the Toronto Trick Roomers, a very good series that went 2 games in total. Game 1 being the lead of the Hitmonchan, Galarian Moltres, and the Arcanine Magnezone from Chapel Hill. Hitmonchan getting a lot of close combats off in Game 1. Matter of fact, was able to get a crit, which was very impactful in taking down the Urshifu when it was Dynamax later on in the game. With Toronto taking that series or taking that game with a 1 differential, very close in the end. Game 2, a little bit change up on the leads. We saw Togekiss Magnezone from Chapel Hill, Lycanroc, and Dugtrio from Toronto. A lot of the same in the Dynamaxes being for Urshifu and for the Moltres. Moltres still carrying that one in the end, picking that one up for Toronto with a +2 differential. But looking a little bit closer at these stats, as you can see, the Chapel Haluches going with the G-Max Urshifu Rapid Strike with 2 maxes, 3 KOs, 2 feints, with a very unique set that was unexpected for the Toronto Trick Roomers, as quoted in the call. But Chapel was not expecting the Galarian Moltres, which we'll get to in a minute. But the Arcanine, 2 usages, 2 feints. Togekiss, 1 use, 1 KO, 1 feint. This Magnezone, 2 usages, 1 KO, 2 feints, did a lot of tricky things, made it very interesting. Doublade, unfortunately, swapped into a Max Darkness and was never seen or heard of again with 1 use and 1 feint. And Turtonator just late to the party, didn't show up. And then from the Toronto Trick Roomers side, you see this Galarian Moltres, the MVP of the series, with 2 maxes, 4 KOs, 1 feint. Did a lot of heavy lifting in this series, paired up with that Hitmonchan with 1 use, 1 KO, 1 feint with all that close combat damage. Then the Galari, or the whatever the heck that Dugtrio is, Alolan Dugtrio.
Yep.
I forget which one is that has the mullet. Alolan Dugtrio, 2 usages, 2 KOs, 1 feint. Lycanroc, 1 use, 1 feint. Dragapult got picked off by Choice Scarfed Urshifu with 1 use, 1 feint, and then Manectric out here with 1 use and 1 KO. A very, very good series. 2 games to none for Toronto, giving them a 3-point lead and leading that division after that win.
But yeah, so we had our final game to finish off the week. An absolute thriller is what I called it earlier, but it's about as thrilling as watching a whole marathon. So that's what this series felt like. It was a long one. We started off our game one with the classic Whimsicott Cobalion opening from Jersey City up against the Gardevoir Vanillix from Memphis. Uh, Looks like Jersey just kind of kept the tempo rolling this game with that Cobalion Whimsicott setup and was able to take game one. Game two, we saw some different openings with the Grapplock Malamar coming out from Jersey City up against the Gardevoir Quagsire from Memphis. After a lot of Octolock Contrary procs from Jersey and being followed by Yawns and Hazes coming out of this Quagsire, Memphis was able to take back the series and tie it up at 1-1. Going into game three, Jersey City brought back that Whimsicott Cobalion opener, and Memphis showing back up with the Gardevoir Quagsire. And after a lot of yawns coming out from both sides, from that Vaporeon and that Quagsire, what felt like a really long game and a really long series finally came out. Jersey City broke through and was able to take the series 2-1. Looking at these stat lines, we've got on the Jersey City side that MVP Cobalion used 3 times, 6 KOs and 2 feints. Alongside it, we've got that Whimsicott used 3 times with 1 KO and 2 feints. The Vaporeon used twice, no KOs and 1 feint. The Malamar taking up a lot of time and a lot of resources, used twice, no KOs and 1 feint. The Halucha showing up twice with 1 KO and 1 feint, and the Grapplock being used once, no KOs and 1 feint. Coming out of Memphis this week, we had the Regidrago showing back up with 2 uses, 1 KO and 1 feint. The signature Machamp with 1 max, no KOs and 1 feint, sort of taking a backseat for this series to let the Guzzlord shine here with 2 maxes, 2 KOs, and 2 feints. That supportive Vanillix showing up used once with 1 KO and 1 feint. And the Gardevoir putting out a lot of pressure here again, used 3 times with 3 KOs and 2 feints, getting those good dazzling gleams into these fighting types. And our lovable Quagsire, who was a strong contender for the MVP if Machamps were able to take the series, used twice with 1 KO and 1 feint.
You know, there's really only one thing to add about that game, and that was arrow.
Yawn was insane that series,
Oh
over and
my
over and over.
Yeah.
We love that noise. We love that
That was
sound.
the only reason it was tolerable. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's because it's such a good noise. But all these games have played out over the past 2 weeks, which have led us to the way that the table has currently shaped up. Caleb, why don't you walk us through the current standings?
We've had quite a bit change from the last time we had a video going on. The top 3 teams on some massive hot streaks. The West Texas Wingulls with 8 points, 3-1 match record with 3 games won in a row. 7-3 game score, 2-0 in division, locking that up. Non-division 1-1 plus 12 differential, but not to be outdone. Coming off the bye week, the Toronto Trick Roomers 7 points, 4-0 match record, absolutely tearing through this season. 8-2 game score, 1-0 in division, 3-0 in non-division, plus 9 differential. And then the Jersey City Jirachis, who have literally turned it up to a whole new level the last 3 weeks with 6 points, 3-2 match record, 7-6 game score, 2-0 division record, 1-2 non-division, plus 1 differential. The Chapo Haluchas playing some very tough series this season with 4 points, 2-2 match record, 4-5 game score, 1-2 in division and 1-0 in non-division, minus 5 differential. And then the Memphis Machamps, who when they do lose, don't lose any Pokemon in the differential column, with 3 points, 2-2 match record, 6-6 game score, 0-2 in division, but 2-0 in non-division with that plus 4 differential. The Charlotte Charizards, who are on a bye this week with 2 points in what would have been the Zambia Zebstrika matchup. 0-4 match record, 3-8 game score, 0-1 in division, 0-3 non-division, and -10 differential. And then the Nashville Ninetales rounding out our table for the playoff eligibles with 1 point, 1-4 match record, 4-9 game score, 0-1 division, 1-3 non-division, and -11 differential. A lot of interesting storylines to follow in the last 2 weeks in week 6 and 7 for the playoffs. Chris, I know you're itching to talk about these divisions and break down what we are expecting to see for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so, I mean, you just said it twice. I'm going to say it one more time. We've only got 2 games left for most of these teams, except for Jersey City and Nashville both having a bye in that time span, meaning that Nashville is guaranteed 2 points and Jersey City is guaranteed 1. Sat down, did a lot of number crunching to see exactly how things could possibly play out, and a lot of things are still open, but a lot of divisional stuff is kind of settled, starting with the West Texas Wingulls claiming their 3rd straight division title in the Sinnoh division. That is now clinched. Both of the other teams in Sinnoh, the Charlotte Charizards and the Nashville Ninetales, can reach a maximum of 6 points in their remaining games. And that will be determined this week when these two teams play. Who is going to get second is absolutely determined by that game, because if Charlotte gets 2 points, Nashville's then on the bye. The most they can get is 3. That still seals them up. If they get the sweep, that's just even better for them. Nashville, if they're able to win, that's going to give them at least 4 points for the rest of the season, taking them up to the 5 points, which would then put them out of range of Charlotte, whose last week is non-divisional, so only playing for 1 point there. So a very, very important game this week is that Sinnoh deciding match, which will lock that division up. Hoenn, still a little bit more of a question mark, but we do know that Chapel Hill is for sure locked out of the top 2 positions. The best they can do right now is maintain their 3rd with 2 non-divisional games left. The maximum points they can reach is 6. Memphis would be able to catch up to that first place tie-breaking number as the way things currently stand at 7, with a non-divisional and a divisional game left. However, their divisional game is against Toronto, and if Toronto wins that, they are completely eliminated from the top 2. And if they do manage to get to the 7 points, they would tie Jersey City. If Jersey City loses against Toronto, which means Toronto would still go up, and then they would be in 3rd due to being tied on points and having lost the head-to-head matchup just this past week. So, very tricky for them to try and make it up into that 2nd slot, but they're just praying that they can sweep Toronto and then clutch it out in the last week to push Toronto out of that top 2. Good luck. But yeah, so still a lot left to play for on both sides of the table. A lot of exciting matches that we're going to see. Gentlemen, any thoughts on any of this before we move on?
When you made this schedule, Chris, we had all our non-division stuff up front, so we didn't know what was going to happen with divisions until literally the last week of the season.
Blame Ali.
Yeah, well, that's the fun part of doing this, but my word is it's stressful. I'm glad that I'm done with it. Obviously, I'm trying to get 10 points, but just for playoff seeding later. But man, these divisions have been a lot of fun to watch. A lot of different storylines, a lot of different ways these things have played out, and it's been insane how good the Hoenn division, how tight that race has been overall.
Yeah, surely I was, thinking that Hoenn would be the better bracket in terms of skill level, but I was not ready for Hoenn to be this insanely good this season. Some high-quality drafts, I guess you could say. I think we really had 2 solid drafts and 4 solid players is what Hoenn really shaped out to be, but speaking of shaping up, we're now starting to see a few of the pieces fall into place for that playoff bracket. So, Ali, why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, so this is our overall playoff bracket we got going on here. Starting off with a play-in match to reach the actual playoffs with the 4th seed from Hoenn versus the lowest overall division third seed which will be moving on to the wild cards against the Hoenn and Sinnoh second seeds. And then we reseed where the Hoenn 1 seed will be in the semifinals, whoever that may be by the end of the season. And the only thing that we do have confirmed is West Texas Wingulls is waiting in the semifinals for an opponent.
That's where we like to be, man.
This is true, but we've also made a spicy little number to help sort of solidify what this picture could actually look like. And we've got a theoretical bracket cooked up. So, Ali, why don't you walk the people through that one?
Yeah, so this is what the bracket would look like if the season ended right now with the current standings and everything, which would be the Memphis Machamps and the Nashville Ninetales in this play-in match to reach the playoffs. The winner of that match will advance to the wild card round where they'd play against Charlotte, and then Jersey City and Chapel Hill will be playing in that wild card. And yeah, so the winners of those matches will be moving on to the semifinals to face Toronto and West Texas. And after that, all we have is our finals.
Yep. And obviously, as it says there, those wild card non-winners, we'll call them, drop down to play in the All-Star match, and the semifinal non-winners drop into the consolation match. But all of it looks super exciting. I'm excited to see this thing actually lock into place so we can see our real playoff picture. Caleb, Ollie, any thoughts looking at this before we move on to our next week's predictions?
If this actually locked in like this, would have some of the best of fives we've had in a while. I think just because Memphis and Nashville played one heck of a 3-game series. Jersey City and Chapel Hill, that was a nail biter that, Jersey City actually surprised us and swept that. But, Chapel Hill they were ticked off that they're like, hey, man, we weren't ready for this. And this gives them like a best of 5 to set up and prepare for. That's the perfect revenge arc if you're Chapel Hill to try to get back at that, because they were not expecting to lose that match. And now, hey, it's win or go home basically at that point. And just those 2 matches alone make for a really good playoff lines already. So if this was scripted, those would be the scripts I'd be going for.
Ali, any thoughts?
It wouldn't be a script without Nashville getting that playoff buff that we all love to see.
Happens every season.
Happens all the time. So, we're just waiting on that to show up. But with this theoretical bracket, we don't get to see the ever exciting Jersey City versus Nashville best of 5.
Only in the finals if you get there.
Yep. Both teams make it to the final. Something I've got my eyes on is actually the fact that this might be exactly where Memphis wants to be. If we think back to that table, so far they're undefeated against Sinnoh and have not won a game divisionally yet. So the best way through playoffs for them, theoretically, would be to go through that Sinnoh side if they could get there. And this provides them the exact opportunity. If they can get over that Ninetales playoff buff, you get to go face Charlotte, who you've already, we've seen. It's like, that's kind of where you want to be if you're Memphis. I don't think they're too sad to be there necessarily. So I think this provides us with a lot of really fun narratives. Again, I think if we were scripting it, this is exactly where we would want to place everybody, and that's really exciting for me at least. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
just get a little bit ahead of ourselves with some predictions for next week.
Yeah. It's easy to talk about the 7-man playoff. I'm really glad we did that. It just makes it a lot of fun.
But this is the first week where we have a differing opinion in every single matchup.
Finally.
So we're going to do something a little different this week, and we're going to go across the board. And we're going to start with this first matchup. We've got the Chapel Hill Halushas versus the West Texas Wingulls. The West Texas Wingulls are on a surge after losing week 1 to the Toronto Trick Roomers. They haven't lost a series since. Been looking more and more impressive. And Chapel Hill kind of having the opposite story, getting that bye in week 1 and then having that week 2 massive blowout. And then it's kind of been a slippery slope for them since there. Let's start with you, Ali. You've got this pinned as a 2-1 in the West Texas Wingulls' favor. What's that about?
Yeah, so I do have it with West Texas taking the series, and judging by just the season's play alone and looking at the trends, because you can't look at history anymore because nothing's the same as what it used to be. But West Texas on the rise, Chapel Hill kind of settling down, hoping to bring themselves back up. But I do think West Texas does have the edge in this series.
Yep, well, let's hear from West Texas then.
This is not even a real like analysis, like I'm gonna pick myself to win 2-1. But primarily here is Chapel Hill has played very good all season. They're 2-2. They've played well. They've had close series. They got swept last week, but that was just because very good, very close. That's one of those sweeps that doesn't feel like a sweep, I guess. Actually, both sweeps that week were like that, but they have a lot of really good pieces here. Like Reggie Lecky could be very problematic for my team. Haven't done a lot of prep yet, just because I have not had the time to do it yet. But the Chapel Hill team, very good. They have a very good coach. I believe they can devise a game plan that can pick up a game. Hopefully, we can identify what we need to do to win that. And I have confidence that we can pick up 2 games here. It's non-divisional, and it's one of those ones maybe we can test something, but we are trying to get 10 points, so we do want to pick up the win here regardless. And so 2-1 is what I'm calling it. Chapel Hill will be a very tough opponent, though, so a lot of respect there.
Yep. Well, hi, it's me, guy that disagrees. I've got this as a 2-1 for Chapel Hill. I think Chapel Hill's really starting to hone in on some of the weirder things that they can do with their roster to sort of test the limits and catch their opponents off guard. And while I do think that the West Texas Wingulls have been the second most consistent player this season, I think that part of the problem with being consistent is that you're able to be caught off guard. Having to have just played the Chapel Hill Haluchas, it felt like if I pushed one bad button, that series was over for me, and that I was just going to get absolutely destroyed from that point on. So, sensing that pressure is going to be on the West Texas Wingulls again, and knowing that Caleb likes to get cute around this part of the season and try weird shit that doesn't work, if he's going to drop games, he typically does it around here, and I think that John is going to be good enough to punish that. I'm calling this a 2-1. You can say it's for flavor, but I'm calling it right now. Reggie Lecky gonna go crazy. And
We'll have to have a game plan for that, no doubt.
Yeah, and I hope he's gonna have a game plan for your game plan. But
that would make it for an interesting series, that's for sure.
And that's all I really want, man. I don't care who wins. I just want it to be good entertainment. But then taking a look at our
Both
next
teams have fun.
I just hope they don't hit each other too hard. But taking a look at our second match of the week, we've got the Nashville Ninetales versus the Charlotte Charizards. This is the one that we built up to, boys. This is the deciding match for Sinnoh. This locks everybody into place. Very important match for these two teams. High pressure, hopefully high octane. Ali, we're going to start with you because I already know we're going to get some super high-depth analysis here and some super good insights into sort of how you're breaking down the team and things like that. So why don't we get this out of the way? You've got a 2-1 Nashville.
Yeah, got a 2-1 Nashville. You guys already know my answer. Everyone watching at home already knows my answer. Never going to bet against myself. I've been wrong a lot this season. And I'm looking to see if Charlotte can make me wrong again, but it's been a difficult match to prep for, and especially with how well Charlotte's been playing lately, I do think they have a very real chance of taking the series against me. But you know how it is. I'm not betting against myself.
And that's just how it do be. But Caleb, you've got this going the other way. Let's get some analysis on that.
I do. Played both these teams. Both teams are very tough to play against just because they have pieces they're very familiar with. after all the roster moves that you'll see in another video. Nashville has literally revamped their entire roster with a lot of things that they are very familiar with and very difficult to game plan for. But Charlotte does have the Pokemon that they like to use. They have that Cinderace, which is one of their favorites. They have Thundurus. They've proven that they know how to use. They're coming off the bye week, which I think is actually really good for them because it's given them 2 weeks to prepare for this. And also, I think the more important thing here is allows them to mentally reset because, my word, they have been literally 1 or 2 turns away from picking up a win almost every week. They're 0-4. Their differential has suffered because of that, but I think they're gonna get a win somewhere. It's just, is it now or is it in the playoffs? I think, honestly, just because they're gonna break through. They're right there. They're knocking at the door. I think this is a great week to prove that they'll pick up a win. They'll get that first win hurdle out of the way, and that's gonna allow them to hopefully clear their mind and not have to worry about when am I finally gonna win. They've done it. They can do it. I think 2-1 here cinches that second spot. Gets them a spot in the wild card, and I think that'll be good for them. So 2-1 Charlotte, just because of the mental reset.
Yeah, not even off the mental reset. I think for me, both these teams have been kind of slumping, in a sense. I don't know if you can really call it a slump for Charlotte if they never got that first win, but they, like you said, they've been so close. They've actually been playing pretty well. They've pushed pretty good buttons. They've been fairly consistent. There's just that 1 or 2 button clicks each series that throw them off, lose them some tempo, and it gets out of their hands from there. And while I do think that Nashville is capable of punishing that, I still think this is a fairly new roster for them. They're still trying to explore some of these new pieces. They've got to get some usages in, things like that, before the end of the season. And all those things sort of play into the fact that I think Charlotte has a fairly good matchup on paper. I think they're capable of doing things to either wall up in front of this Nashville team to make it a problem, or just going really hard at the Nashville carries to deal with those and leaving just all those supports on the sidelines, hoping that they can clean something up. So I do give Charlotte the edge here. It would not surprise me to see this go either way, but my money's on Charlotte here. And real analysis, I just bet it against Ollie. I'm kidding.
You wouldn't be wrong to do so, but
Statistically, this season it's the right move. I'm sorry.
This is the game. This is the prediction game he gets back because he's going to win the series. He's going to get his prediction. He's going to gain a game, and that's all he needs right there. And
Maximum
then he's going to just
momentum.
I'm just here to gatekeep the playoffs.
Yep. He's just here to get the playoff buff and start ruining people's day starting in the play-ins. Yeah. But we've got one more match this week. We've got the Memphis Machamps versus the Toronto Trick Roomers. This will tell us a lot about how the Hoenn division is going to play out, with either team picking up a win here. And, yeah, Caleb, you've got this as a 2-1.
I do.
For Memphis.
I do. Yeah, you said 2-1 Chapley. Well, that ticked me off. I'm kidding.
You voted first.
I did vote first, actually. So I think you did it out of spite. But anyways, I really actually think, Memphis can do something weird. They've had this all shiny team. It's performed better than we all expected at the beginning of this season. If you look at that draft review video, we really, really drug that team through the dirt, and he has proven that it is a lot better than that. Which I've been very happy to see it. I got on the Memphis hype train, I think in like week 3 or something like that. Finally got a ticket there. I did say that, hey, we're going to ride with them all the way till they play us in week 7. And that's what we're planning on doing. They picked this up 2-1. That gets them in a really good spot to maybe sneak in for that 3rd place or 2nd place slot. And it's going to need a lot of help to get there. They really need to sweep realistically for that. But
no, they have
if they pick this up, if they pick this up 2-1, it actually helps me and hopefully getting that number 1 seed. And so, there's a little bit of, I need help to get that 1 seed for the playoffs. Maybe Memphis can help me out. Maybe I'll help them out week 7. We'll make a deal if we need to.
Are you outing yourself on match fixing right now? Is that
absolutely.
What I just heard?
Yeah, we're going to be like the NBA refs at that one point and just start throwing games for ourselves. Yeah.
Banned. You're getting a automatic loss penalty to all three legacy players next season.
Oh no.
Those are the
I'll
ones you really
take it.
don't want to lose. Yeah, Ali will take
No,
it.
no.
But
Yeah.
speaking of Ali, you've got this one going the other way.
Yeah, I would like a refund on my Memphis Hype Train ticket. It kind of crashed and burned last week when I finally hopped on. Guess I got on at the wrong spot.
Valid.
But I mean, they've been playing a lot better than we all expected, but Toronto's been playing as well as we expected. And
Yeah, they really have.
having not lost a
Yeah.
single series. And I don't think they're gonna lose this one either. Uh,
Yeah, that's reserved for Jersey
Memphis,
City.
yeah. Memphis can certainly try something to throw them off guard, and I think that'll get them at least one game in this series. But Toronto still got the edge here.
Yeah. This is sort of the old guard versus the new guard, the old shiny king versus the new shiny guy. I don't know what his
Both
counts at. I
ridiculous.
checked mine. I'm at 222 on Sword and Shield, so that's a lot of
That's
shinies.
nuts.
Yeah,
That's nuts.
that is literally
Oh
200
my.
more shinies than Caleb. But,
Yeah.
but,
You don't even have 10% of that, man.
but,
Oh.
alongside all those shinies, especially thanks to players like Alex from the Jersey City Jirachi, really experienced with dealing with the chaos, and thanks to stuff like all of the Players' Cup experience and the hundreds of ladder games played, you get kind of used to dealing with the weird things that people like to throw at you. I think we're going to be able to handle it. We might need that game one to sort of suss out what it is that they're doing that's so weird and cheeky that might be an answer to something, but um, built a really consistent roster, even managed to improve it a little bit through some free agency moves. In particular, make some free agency moves to help deal with this team if I choose to go for those. So I like my chances here. They could absolutely do something crazy like they have been all season and pick up a win, but I'm relying on my team's consistency to say, hey, look, 2-1, we'll figure it out and we'll deal with it. And then obviously Jersey City taking their bye week, picking up that 1 point to take them to 7 and tie Toronto at the top of the standings, but losing out, unfortunately for them, on the differential. But gentlemen, any final notes before we say goodbye to the people at home?
We got a wild playoff run, that's for sure, for somebody. Do we get a play in all the way to the finals? That's the thing. Like, who gets hot at the right time? That's all what the last 2-3 weeks of this season are. Do you get hot? Can you ride it all the way through the playoffs?
Very true. Ali?
I mean, this is where we get to see everything shape up. We get to see these five past like 5 weeks worth of work come into fruition and see where it places everyone. So it's always exciting to see.
Very true, very true. Well, to the people at home, I've got one last thing to say to you, and that is thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content and you're over on Twitch, feel free to go find us on YouTube at W&W Pokemon Draft League. If you're catching us on YouTube, feel free to follow any of those links on the left to find us on Twitch, where you can catch us periodically streaming during the weeks. Not sure how much of that's going to be going on with school and everything kicking back up for some people, but you never know. And if you follow, you'll know when we go live. Just turn on the alerts. If you are catching this on YouTube, make sure you're liked and subscribed. And don't worry, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.
We'll see you later.